Okay, we're going to go over a couple things for you that your responsibilities in the producer booth. Some of this stuff might be old hat for you, but if not, we're just being safe. One of the things we require you to do is email Paula Cooper the times during the newscast. So what I do every day is I basically just create an email like this, Paula Cooper, newscast break length, and then I just list them here, midnight, 12:30, 1 a.m., 1:30, 2 a.m., 2:30. That's all it is. Basically, you just look at the log. Once you see the log, you check how many minutes are in the newscast, and just email it to her. That's basically it. The other element involving Paula Cooper is the weather forecast. So with here at 10:45 every night, she should email you this weather forecast. What you do is you copy and paste it. You stop just below the official data at O'Hare and Sun, So you just want to get the 5-day forecast basically. So you copy this. You open up a Word document, copy and paste, delete that part where I list the meteorologist, delete rest of the overnight, and then you've got the 5-day forecast. Bill likes to have his print a little larger. I usually like to make it 14 or 16, and I try to make it look as clean as possible here. Alright, after this, you type up current temps. You do it for O'Hare, Midway, Lakefront. Forgive the misspelling since I'm typing this with one hand. And then you type "and now" in traffic central. Here's Ted Novak. Alright, so what happens is now you print off 3 of these sheets. Again, I like to do this before the show just because I'll forget later. You print off 3 of them, and you save them for later in the show. We start doing weather and traffics at 3:45, so Bill will read one of these at 3:45, 4:15, and 4:45. During the 3:30 news, you go to wgnradio.com/temps, T-E-M-P-S, as in temperatures, and it'll list the current temps for that time. And you write them in on the sheet. It's, 78, 79, 77, and then you give those to Bill. You can write the same temperature on all 3 sheets. It usually does not change during the course of that time. And so that's the weather portion of things. Next, let's bring up the bumps. Now, there are 2 ways to play bumps. You can play them off of iTunes, or you can play them off of Winamp. I'm going to select Winamp just for the easiness of this tutorial. And I'm going to clear this list so you know what it's like. Alright, so more than likely you're going to open Winamp or iTunes and it's going to be a blank thing like this. Here's where you get the bumps. You go to the My Computer. You go to the E drive. In the E drive there's Bumpers HD. Go down to Contemporary. And then so those are all bumps you can use right there in that folder. I just like to drag them over, and then you've got a bump. Now select several ones because you're going to be running the bumps through the majority of the show. Go with stuff you think would sound good. There's a lot of death metal in here and rap. Sometimes that doesn't fit the mood, so just be careful with which ones you're selecting. And that leads us to the next thing, playing these on air. So you get these going, and we'll just play these. We'll let these play for now. You come over here. In order to play a bump or any audio on the computer on air, you have to have the pre-delay button on, you have to have the on button on, and then you have to have the flash button on. Those 3 things need to be on, alright? And then once you raise this, the music starts playing on air. You can see it by the VU meters. You can't hear it right now because of the way the studio's set up, but you will be able to hear it when you're on air. So again, flash on, this on, and pre-delay on. Now you can cue stuff up off the air. You can do that by pressing Program. You can hear the stuff in your headphones. So what I like to do is I like to play the bump for the break. Immediately after we fade down, I like to set up the next bump so I know what's coming. Just make sure to set it out of this program in order for it to work. If you have it in program, no audio will play. Alright, next up is the commercial vault. Now this is just one of those things where if you feel comfortable doing it, great. If not, don't worry about it. One thing Bill likes to do is do his live read as the second to last thing in the break, right? Basically, you do these spots, then a live read, then the talent bump back. And the way to do that is to drag over a web return, stop commercial from over here, and then let's say you break at 17. So you break at 17 and we play this. Bill does the live read here, 1 or 2 usually, and then once he's done, you hit this button, spot start, it fires the talent bump back, and then you bump in, as you bring it under the talent bump back. It's one of those things where depending on how much experience you have at the radio station, that might be secondhand or it might be a pain in the butt. If it is a pain in the butt, do not worry about it. What you can do is just leave it as is. So this is how it was originally. Play this bump in its entirety. After this, have Bill do his live reads, and then you bump in there. All right. Finally, the phone system. Or excuse me, second to last thing, the phone system. Now, hopefully you've had experience with this, but if not, the phone lines are here. What'll happen is if somebody's calling you, you see a green box pop in and out. You answer the phone call. If they're worthy of air, you come over to this screen. You type in their name, what they're calling about. And then I like to hit screen hold. This puts them on hold and ready for air. And it's easy to do. It's one button. One thing with Bill, you'll have to remind him to either pot down or put people on hold. He sometimes forgets to do that, especially during longer phone interviews. So just something to keep in mind. If you have to call our guest, and that might happen to some of you, what you do is first you take it off the ringer, pick it up, and you press that button on the side. A little phone pad will pop up. I'm going to call our studio line just for the purposes of this thing, 222-5951. Then you press go. You'll hear it ringing on your end, and eventually, in theory, it should start ringing on their end. So, if you have to dial internationally, there might be a country code. It's usually 011, then a 4040. Sorry about that. I actually reached one of our compatriots there. That wasn't on purpose. So what you want to do is 011, the country code, and then you hit go. There's no need to dial 9. There's nothing along those lines. All right, finally, the last thing we have to do is take a reading, a transmitter reading. Now what you do here is you flip the station to 31.1. You get this screen. You have to do this during the midnight hour and the 2 o'clock hour. And what you do is you're writing down the EPA number, the IPA number, and the antenna number. So right now it's 288, 241, 24.7. And you see here from people who have done it during the day, you write, in her case for Krista, it was 1013. She did 294, 230. You can leave these blank. 24.7. Your initials, you sign off. So you put your signature here, and you write on at midnight, off at 4 a.m. So here's an example of what I did earlier this morning. So I took it at 101 and 303. I was a little bit off. And my times, you should try to do them during the midnight and 2 o'clock hour. But again, I wrote the EPA number here, the IPA number here, the antenna number here, your initials, name, on at midnight, off at 4 a.m.